Hello, folks. C.W. Johnson Jr. here. I was unable to get up a special Christmas Day edition of That Should Be a Movie made and uploaded because I've been busy, let me fix my hair there, in a move, and my software has been acting up. So in lieu of that, I will be doing a reissue, as they say in the film industry, when they reissue a Christmas movie, during the Christmas season a few years after it came out, of my video I did back in August. Only we the people can prevent mass shootings. You can see it here. It's just, since I didn't have my line, what I want to say written down, it's just me mumbling and grumbling and, incoherent ramblings about what's on my mind at the time. So hopefully this is a bit more clear for you to understand, since I'm actually going to be reading the note that got me investigated by the federal government. Yes, back in August I posted this note, and it was meant to inspire others to love and good works. It was meant to encourage those struggling with illness and anger, mental illness and anger, to overcome. Instead, 2 weeks later, I received a call from the Louisiana State Police. They informed me of their cyber center in Baton Rouge, the capital of our great state, that trolls social media for city certain keywords, Bolsheviksm, communism. You see the Uism there? Red flag? Yeah, well, these keywords send up red flags. And simply because some of those keywords turned up in my post, they investigated me. They sent 4 policemen to my house. I was not home at the time. And even got the FBI involved. That's right, the federal government. The Federal Bureau of Investigation. I had to meet with an FBI agent and a policeman one morning to assure them that I was not planning on a mass shooting, that my note about preventing mass shootings was not an indication that I was about to carry one out. Honestly, I know I was going to say this, but how many IQ tests do you have to fail to work for the government? I'm sorry, being a law enforcement, even though they said I was not in trouble, heck, even the policeman admitted that he agreed with most of what I said. It gave me 1984 Big Brother Minority Report vibes. Really, really shaken me. My trust in the law enforcement and the federal government, and it's left me shaken for weeks, honestly. Now here's the real kicker. In order not to be passive aggressive, I sent a note to the mother of someone whose actions I mentioned in it. It was the female when I informed her that I had PTSD, she was more upset over the fact that I described her actions as selfish. Then she was aghast at, or sorry that I had been through some soul-crushing experience. I reiterated that I was not a threat. I did not even want to reply. I just wanted them to think about their actions. I know that's not a popular pastime these days, but I just wanted them to think. Well, instead of being inspired to think about love and good works and be amazed that I was able to come out of a dark place, she was upset. She chose to focus on my description of her actions as selfish and call the state police to investigate me as a potential threat. What's to say if you defriend someone after they've told you that they have PTSD? Excuse me. And then you have a long excuse me. Let's just say, if you defriend someone after they've told you that you have PTSD, and then you get the long arm of the law to come down upon them over some criticisms, then a simple description of your actions is probably a good assessment of your character. The FBI agent asked me if I was planning on harming a family whom I explicitly told I was not a threat. The G-Man admitted that he could not restrict my freedom of speech, but compared what I said to shouting fire in a crowded theater, which is illegal, even though the legality of that has been challenged, but we're not here to discuss that. That was simply a terrible analogy. I was not shouting fire. I was saying we need to fix the sprinklers in this theater or dull light matches in a theater. Ladies and gentlemen, when we have come to the point where conservatives who claim to bear the name of Christ call law enforcement because somebody criticized them, then there's something seriously wrong with us as a nation, with our society. That is why I will not be silent no matter what the feds say or even politicians say. So without further ado, here's the note that had me investigated by the federal government. Put the wrong page down there. Anyway, I use the word rant here sardonically. This is rant meant to be read in Gary Cooper's voice from Meet John Doe or Charlie Chaplin's voice in the ending speech from The Great Dictator. Both classic movies you should check out this holiday season. Every time America suffers the tragedy of a mass shooting, the right wants to blame mental illness, unless the shooter's a Muslim, while the left wants to blame guns. What if neither side is right? What if the problem is you? Nearly every shooter profile says the young men were loners, quiet, alienated, and angry. Many of the school shooters were bullied. How many people do you know like that? I have sat in circles of Christian conservative young people as they talk about, make fun of, and belittle people who match that description. The young people who were the subject of those conversations either had mental health problems or had been abused as children. As someone who has learning disability, ADA and ADHD and Tourette's, as well as depression and now PTSD, I can attest to the fact that how people treat us affects how we deal with their issues. I can still remember the pain and frustration during my first bout with depression, when someone I considered a good friend began ignoring me and acted annoyed whenever I tried to talk with them, or the people who are glad to see everyone but me, or the person who got a picture with everyone in a play's cast except me. Looking back, things like that should flow off your back like water off a duck's. But depression amplifies those things 10 times, tenfold. But actions and attitudes like those people so toward me should be addressed when discussing preventing mass shootings. We should address the attitude of the female who flirted with me for years, but then ignored me when I returned from an abusive situation with a bad attitude. When I told her that was the time she should have given me an encouraging word, she said that guys and girls do not owe each other the same means of grace. Somehow this winner of multiple Bible drills forgot the verse that says there is no male or female in Christ. She also claimed she wasn't flirting with me, but was trying to cheer me up because I looked sad. Again, that was during my first bout with depression. How was I supposed to know that when she never said anything cheerful to me? How was I supposed to know that she was trying to cheer me up when she never said anything cheerful to me? And a pastor wanted me to believe that silliness when I pointed out the inconsistency of her spending 2 years on mission in Africa while being standoffish and aloof to the members of her local church in America, something even her parents noticed. We should address the attitude of the guy who I once considered one of my best friends, who led someone in falsely accusing me. Then, when I told him the accusation was false, changed the subject to my depression, which I had fairly under control at the time. Instead of apologizing for falsely accusing me, he judged me by my past, questioning my relationship with God, and implying I couldn't be used by him because of my depression. Later, when I presented further evidence that the accusation was false, he didn't even pass the information on to his subordinate, who he led in falsely accusing me. We should address the attitude of that subordinate, who scoffingly interrupted me while I was explaining my depression with, "That's no reason." Later, when I tried to explain how their treatment of me was wrong, he interrupted me again and pointed an accusatory finger in my face and said, "You need to work on mood swings." Later, when I said something to him again, he lectured me on being better, instead of humbly asking me what was wrong. We need to address the attitude of the director of that school where that occurred, who did not act when I first informed him of the situation. Then he did not remove the staff member when I informed him of his attitude and actions, and finally defended the staff member despite the fact that he claimed the things he falsely accused me of doing did not matter that I actually did them, because he claimed my heart was fickle, while notifying the scriptures and common human decency because he claimed I was just trying to help and I'm sorry you misunderstood. The staff member's father was on the board of directors of that now defunct school. We should address the attitudes of students and staff of that school, most of whom did not return my messages informing them of the PTSD that resulted from my experience there, and request for prayers as I sought medical help. We must address the attitude of the student who sent me an email saying, "I trust you are doing well," but did not answer, praying for you, when I replied that I wasn't doing well. Then, later, said, "Being a victim is always a choice. And I would love to talk to you about this. I would love to talk with you about this, but I'm busy," which is just a nice way of saying F off. When I sought justice for the mental abuses inflicted upon me. We must address the attitude of the pastors who, when I informed them of the abuse and asked for help in getting justice, said, "Get over it," and "I warned you about going there," as well as "Don't feel sorry for yourself," as I was dealing with suicidal thoughts. Only when I began visiting other churches did they get worried that I might violate the Almighty's canon against self-slaughter. It wasn't even on my mind at the time. We must address the attitude of the female I took 2 mission trips with and hung out with a lot. Then she said I was just some random guy, and it freaked her out that I was interested in her, and that I was cluttering up her Facebook newsfeed. Furthermore, when I told her about the abuse at the school, she felt it necessary to say that she had a good experience there. We must address the attitude of the female who, when informed by me that I had PTSD, and that her rudeness toward me not replying to my apology for ignoring what amounted to be a flirtatious advance, as well as my invitation for lunch after church, not only defriended me on social media, telling me never to contact her again, but also went to our pastor with some ridiculous story about how she didn't want to hurt my feelings, and asked him to tell me never to contact her again. We must address the attitude of that pastor who called me in, asked me all sorts of leading questions, and then entrapped me about said female, telling me she's frightened of you, and trying to gaslight me. He told me in a text that he wanted to see how I was communicating with her. He could have just asked to see the private message on my phone. But then in person he said the discussion just went in that direction. Later, when I found out how he did not tell her to show me the kindness and compassion Jesus showed the lepers, who frightened the people back in Jesus' day, and I told him of her actions, he said, "We don't see eye to eye on this." Well, I know that was a pretty long paragraph. But here's the thing. Most of that occurred about 2012-2013. Nearly all of it was done by conservatives who say mental illness or sin is the problem, and see, I'm still here, despite it all, because I took responsibility. I developed PTSD in 2012 due to both abuse and a car accident. I did seek out some general help at the time because I did not want to be randomly shouting profanity with children in the house. Then Aurora happened, then Sandy Hook, and the conversation turned mental illness and gun violence. Knowing that accusations of mental illness has always been a way of suppressing people, from husbands locking away their wives in insane asylums to collect their money during Victorian times, to the USSR locking up dissidents in psychiatric wards, and anyone declaring the homosexuals mentally ill, including Alan Turing, who helped turn the tide of World War II by inventing the computer. I didn't want to lose my Second Amendment rights just because I was on medication. So, through idealism about mind over matter, masculinity, and other things, I stopped getting help and spent a few months withdrawing from the medication. That was not a pleasant time. You know what could have helped and did help during that time? People being decent human beings and taking responsibility for their actions. Sure, I was angry and alienated, thinking many violent thoughts while playing Call of Duty, watching kill count videos on YouTube, and blasting European neoclassical gothic metal in my room. Great stuff. But I continue to live like a decent human being. I defeated the violent thoughts of revenge, which did not include AR-15s, with the knowledge that such actions would prove the abuser's right, hurt my family, ruin my reputation, and mar the image of Christ in the eyes of a watching world. I got a job, finished college, and channeled my pain and grief into art. Every time I hear about a mass shooter, I wonder what kind of art they could have produced if they had just channeled their pain and anger into something more productive. More productive means than going and shooting up a school or a church. There's a lot better things you can do doing that. Through this time, I had friends and family who loved and supported me, like the Clayton family, who helped cover my medical bills when I had an anxiety attack while away from home. Of course, if some of the people in that second paragraph up there had acted differently, that could have helped as well. So, it's on my page before I was done with it. So, conservatives and liberals alike, stop blaming guns and mental illness and Trump, and start making America great again with yourselves. Get out of your comfort zone. Stop debating strangers on Twitter and ordering fast food meals with an app, and go out and start a conversation with people at the park. Find out who your neighbors are. Return that email or private message. Ask your friends how they're doing, not just as a form of common etiquette, but because you really want to know how they're doing. It doesn't take a Senate oversight committee to help your neighbor with a project. Donate to a GoFundMe account for medical bills. Admit you're wrong and ask forgiveness when someone brings an offense to your attention. Stop complaining about Trump pointing out Baltimore as a rat problem and find a solution to the rat problem. Stop waiting for government to cancel your student debt loans. Instead, work 3 jobs or spend some time at a soul-crushing or hard manual labor one, like an oil field or a fishing boat, for a few years. Learn the budget so you can afford health insurance. Stop mocking people for offering thoughts and prayers to grieving families. Saying hello to a stranger is quicker than writing a letter to your congresswoman. If you see a need, start a business to meet it. Tighten your belt to pay for your own rent. Leave an extra generous tip for the waitress. Stop calling conservatives greedy because they would rather donate their money to help people out of poverty than have the government tax it. Stop being aghast at the founding fathers owned slaves and start doing something about the African American youth who see their life as with such little value that they're killing each other every weekend in Chicago. Stop whitewashing the tombs of the victims of lynching during Jim Crow by saying you would have stood up to the redneck mob if you had lived back then. And start refraining from taking part in the internet mobs we have seen in this country in the past few years, from Kavanaugh and the Covington boys to the Starbucks in Arizona and Gillette. Stop removing statues because someone vandalized them and start addressing the hate and bitterness that caused such action. Stop bullying people on social media or at the Capitol building because they believe differently than you. Instead, take some kids to the zoo or aquarium. Stop calling your fellow Americans Nazis and joking about throwing them from helicopters. Instead, join a book club. Pay for the person behind you in line at the grocery store. Learn a musical instrument. Stop complaining about Hollywood producing trash and start supporting the films that express your values. Stop trying to get the government to impose your religious views and beliefs on others, and invite a friend to church. Stop wishing God would send fire and brimstone on a pride parade. Instead, go on a community outreach. Stop complaining about immigrants taking jobs you told your children to avoid. Instead, learn some Spanish. Condemn Antifa and white supremacists in the same breath. Stop saying Democrats started the KKK as though it's some kind of trump card. Stop pointing to Trump's divisiveness to justify your incivility, and learn some civic virtue. Stop saying, well, Obama, to justify kids in cages, and take the higher road. Study logical fallacies. Fact check everything that confirms your narrative and worldview. Stop believing your party holds a monopoly on truth and human decency, and realize that there's good people on both sides, that the line between right and wrong crosses every human heart. Be the change you wish to see in the world. It doesn't take an executive order to offer someone a ride to a job interview. Plant a tree. Think outside the box. Shop local. Plant a garden. Above all, treat that weird, alienated, depressed, angry, frustrated loner with the same love and compassion you would want to be treated with. Include them in your social circles. Remember, everyone's fighting 1,000 battles. We've been telling that to children and teens for years. Why can't we do the same as adults? If they hate the blacks, Hispanics, or big corporations in Wall Street, don't blame it on mental illness, but show them the error of their ways. Ask them about their guns. Hold a shooting tournament for them in order to raise funds for cancer research. Why? Because we're the American people. We're the people. America is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So stop looking for some demagogue to do something, and use your freedom responsibly. Never underestimate the power of the common human citizen. America, the American people, tamed a wilderness, defeated an empire twice while it was still a fledgling nation, produced a breadbasket that is feeding the world, created 10 million inventions, from processing fertilizer to private space shuttles, became the most medically advanced nation in the world, including hospitals to which people from all over the globe had come to for treatment, made a society where a man's character and determination, instead of his family or social status or caste, determines the fate of his dreams, defeated statism on two fronts in 1945, faced down Soviet aggression with the compassion of the Berlin Airlift, saved South Korea from communist tyranny, inspired revolutions and fights for freedom from Mexico to India, defeated racism in the streets of Selma, created some of the most diverse entertainment in the world, produced more stores and restaurants than you could ever eat or shop at, connected the world with the Panama Canal and the Transcontinental Railroad, produced the world's longest used constitution, and created a community of dozens of races, religions, and cultures that exist peacefully side by side. And if that is enough to inspire you, there's one American named Troy Johnson. He couldn't read until he was 16. And then he read 800 books, honestly I lost count, in less than 10 years. Had his college education, held up for 9 years due to math and learning disability, but graduated with an A in math, as well as a 3.7 somewhere in there GPA. Locked away from a suicide attempt, chooses not to let his emotions tell him how to feel. Didn't carry out his violent thoughts against people who would have probably deserved it if life was like a Bruce Willis movie or The Joker. Joker faces the dawn every morning, even though some nights he hopes he doesn't wake up. Learn to control his reactions to his PTSD triggers, and apologizes when he swears at the phantoms in his head. Strives to do the thing he was falsely accused of not doing, even though it brings back frustrating memories, stimuli of his abuse. Tries daily to forgive, and is learning to be a self-supporting member of society despite his late entrance into the workforce. As he balances being a responsible adult while finding the best way he can benefit society with the artistic gifts God has given him that are a channel from the pain that is no doubt similar to what many of the suitors felt. If he can do that, think of what millions of us can do. In Jimmy Stewart's voice, well, I know I've said too much here, but you're the American people. Whatever you decide, determine in your hearts that you will not delegate to some career politician hundreds, thousands of miles away your personal responsibility to love your neighbor. Yes, even your enemies, people in other political parties, even that weird standoffish loner as yourself, like Jesus commanded. Then maybe we might stop most, if not all, of those tragedies that are occurring far too much in our nation, in our great nation, under God. This has been C.W. Johnson Jr. wishing you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, free from mass shootings. Thank you for watching. God bless, and God bless America.